Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of the Hoops Crush podcast. I'm joined by Brady Parks over there, and I'm Eric Brandt. Good to have you here watching this video. Brady, how was your Christmas? How was we didn't film last week. How was your last 2 weeks been leading up to Christmas and all that?
It's been pretty good. Obviously, unfortunately, really couldn't record last week. There was just so much going on. We really couldn't get schedules aligned. But Christmas was good. Got my kids some stuff, and I didn't really do too much. I kind of just sat at home all day, basically. It didn't really
Nothing
feel,
wrong with that.
yeah, it didn't feel like Christmas for the most part for me. I mean, I had family over
Oh,
Christmas Eve, but yeah, I don't know. For some reason, this year it just didn't hit the same. But obviously, as you get older, I feel like that's probably going to be the case. But how was your Christmas?
Mine was about as good as it could be under the circumstances. My wife and I were both really sick, so we had to power through that to make sure our kids had a good Christmas. I think they did, so that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that was a huge reason why we couldn't record and Christmas shopping. So our apologies for not being able to get out an episode last week, but there was just so much going on with the holiday season. But we are obviously officially back, ready to roll and talk about our Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, so since we last spoke, they had a game against the Utah Jazz 2 weeks ago, in which the Jazz sat most of their good players. Think Clarkson, Markkinen, Collins were all missing in action from that game, and the Blazers get thumped by the Jazz despite them missing most of their good players. Just a really bad game. They just did not seem to show up for that one, and man, that one kind of hurt. If there were any thoughts of trying to get back into a race for a play-in or get close to 500 or whatever, you got to win those type of games. And the Blazers were actually favored to win for the first time all year, and just frankly got their butts kicked in that one.
So this game was it the December 14th one? That's the last time we talked, I think. Or yeah, I'm pretty sure the second one was a little too long ago, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're talking about the 14th one. So yeah, for the most part, I will say, not for the most part, but in some of these Blazers videos, or not videos, games, I was very inconsistent in watching the games because of just whether it was my kids, I had something going on with my kids, or whatever it may be. So I'm gonna try to fill in as much as I can. I know there were some games I was able to pay attention to more than others, but for this Jazz game, I do remember Lauri Markkinen. They announced everybody out. I remember talking to the group chat, okay, we better win this game, and we just come out like super stagnant and slow. And it from the get go, it felt like, okay, we're losing this game. Like this is the kind of game that we were supposed to win, and it's not gonna happen. So Scoot had a great game though, double 23 and 10, which Scoot will keep talking about him as he'll become a theme as we keep talking about these games. But yeah, unfortunate loss, but it wasn't too shocking in my opinion because that's the kind of game like, oh wow, we should win this one, but we're not going to. So
yeah. And then a couple nights later, we took on the Mavericks, and similar story. We just got down in the first half and kind of played them even from there. But several of these games over the last couple of weeks, we've either had a really bad second quarter or a couple times we actually had a good second quarter, and but mostly bad. And those have led to getting down double digits in a lot of these games and having to claw our way back. And unfortunately, against the Mavericks, they just couldn't get it close enough to make it a game at any point. The Mavericks just kind of held them around that 10 to 15 point mark the rest of the game, and the Blazers never really got close enough to make it interesting.
yeah, Luka Doncic drops a 40-point triple double on our head. At least Simon's had a good game, but yep, another one where we just fall short.
And then we played the Warriors. We played
Oh
them
man.
twice over the last 2 weeks. Both had some interesting drama at the end of the game. So this particular one, we if we're down 4, Anthony Simons gets an and one layup slash runner. Um, he makes the free throw to make it a 1-point game. The Blazers foul Curry. He makes the first one. They send in the rebounding crew, which means DeAndre Ayton in to get the rebound. Uh, they weren't expecting Curry to miss, I don't think, but Curry does miss the second free throw. So the Blazers secure the rebound. Ayton grabs it, and they have the ball. They have a timeout. There's like 5 seconds or so left in the game. And you would think you'd call timeout immediately, advance the ball, and run a play. You have a timeout to call that. 5 seconds is an awfully low amount of time to get a rebound, pass to someone, and then have that person try to take it up the court and get a good shot off. But so Ayton grabs the rebound, and for some reason he passes it before anyone calls a timeout, and then they still could have called a timeout with like 2 or 3 seconds left once Sharp got the ball into the front court, but they didn't do that either. And Sharp tries to take it to the hoop, almost makes like a miraculous shot through contact, but he misses, and Pods draws a charge, and the Blazers end up losing the game. What did you think of the lack of timeout and just the late game execution there?
This is also the game where the ball went off Stephen Curry's leg, right? Where we thought,
Yes, yes,
yes.
yes.
So that was another huge part of this because we couldn't gotten the ball, which would have been absolutely huge. But yeah, I remember when we got the rebound, I was like, why on earth did we not call a timeout? Sharp does his best, but unfortunately, obviously doesn't get to go in. A charge goes to Podziemski instead, or to Sharp because of Podziemski. Just unfortunate, man. At the end of the day, it's just unfortunate. Especially, I just remember being so mad that like that looked so obvious that it was off of Stephen Curry's leg. But I think at the time we didn't have a challenge, if I remember correctly. Or unless Chauncey just decided not to, but I think we didn't have a challenge.
Well, we didn't have a timeout anymore,
Oh,
so it
at
didn't
that point,
matter.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess it didn't matter. But they refused to review it too, which was
yeah.
kind of
Well,
weird.
no, we didn't have a challenge. That's right, because otherwise they would have reviewed the one going off Steph's foot.
Kind of surprised they don't review that anyway. Like that's such like
Yeah, for a couple or 1 year at least. I don't know if it was more than 1 year, but they like the last 2 minutes they reviewed any out of bounds stuff, and I don't know, they thought the game was too slowed down or something by that. Be kind of nice to have that backup for that game, but um, yeah, the Blazers. There's a long history of. I don't know if you remember some of this stuff, but there was one where when Markieff Morris was with the Wizards.
yes,
He
I
hits like a
remember that.
three after he stepped out of bounds, but that's not reviewable. And there's been all kinds of stuff like that that's happened to the Blazers, and the goaltend in Utah that's not reviewable or
You
whatever
just opened
on
up
the table.
a memory I forgot about with the Marquise Morris thing. The
Yeah,
Gobert, or not the Gobert, yeah, the Gobert goaltend I will remember forever because of
right.
how mad Dame was at that
Yeah,
point. But yeah, the Marquise Morris one was brutal too.
yeah. And so, yeah, unfortunately, the Blazers lose again. Um, so, yeah, I mean, the Mavericks game, they probably shouldn't have won, but the Warriors game, they definitely played well enough to win. And the Jazz game, you felt like they should have been more in that game due to who they had in the lineup versus who the Jazz didn't have. So then we go to last Tuesday, and we played the Suns, who are also kind of struggling. And we get down 16 in the first quarter. It's looking like another one of those games where we're just going to be trying to play from behind, and it's just not going to be tough to come back. But they go on a bit of a run in the second quarter, make the game close, and then just break the game completely open with a big third quarter and take the lead. And then Phoenix kind of made it close towards the end, but the Blazers did a really good job of holding them off and actually played some pretty good defense in that game.
Yeah, absolutely dominant second half. I think this is the game where Aiden was like just hitting for mid range like crazy on his former team, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that though. Just trying to remember all these games at this point, especially when we haven't talked in so long about it. But Anthony Simon scores 23. But yeah, I just remember absolutely just dogging the Suns in the second half. And then, like I said, they did make it close, or like I said, it did make it close. But yeah, we outscored them by 18 in the third quarter. Just an absolute amazing third quarter. This team just got really hot right when the second half hit. And Phoenix Suns right now, obviously have gone through their struggles. I think they win tonight? I don't even know if they won tonight or not. But now there's people talking about, should we feel bad for Kevin Durant or he needs to get out of Phoenix? Like, what are we talking about? I don't know. But yeah, definitely interesting. But the whole Kevin Durant thing.
Well, he had a huge game tonight, 16 assists, I think,
Wow.
triple-double. Yeah, so he had a monster performance. But yeah, I think they did end up winning that game. So yeah, we get coming off a high then, beating the Suns. And then we come back home and get to play one of the worst teams in the league, the Washington Wizards. And same story, man. Like it was almost exactly like the Jazz game. We just get down huge early, and there's a horrible second quarter once again. And it's like, what the heck are we doing? Like, we're favored to win for the second time this year, and just that was absolutely frustrating game. They every time they seemed like they were going to be like, okay, they're going to come back and get in this. The Wizards would hit, like Tyus Jones would hit a like shot clock ending 3-point shot or something, or Kyle Kuzma would hit a shot or get fouled or something, and it just seemed like we could not. Every time we made a run, they hit a big shot to move back up 11 or something. But then in the fourth, Mr. Anthony Simons catches fire, scores 22 points in the quarter, which is amazing considering at the end he misses a lay-in that would have put us up one with, I believe, about 15 seconds left or so, maybe a little more than that. That was a tough break as it rims off. Ayton had a couple of chip shot lay-ins, one off a nice lob from Thibault, and he missed a point-blank lay-in. It gets his own rebound and misses again on the same possession, unfortunately. And then the Blazers, so they end up fouling Kuzma, and Kuzma makes the first one, misses the second one. Ayton and Thibault kind of collide getting the rebound, and it bounces right to Kuzma again, and Anthony has to foul him. And so, unfortunately, he goes back to the line. We should have had the ball only down 2 in that scenario with more time on the clock and all that. And so Kuzma ends up missing the first free throw, makes the second one. So we were down 3. The Blazers have still 2 timeouts, so they use one of them, set up a nice play to get Anthony going downhill from like all the way from the other side of the court. So he gets to the basket, dunks it, cut it back to 2, or cut it back to 1 with, I think there was like 7 or 8 seconds left. And on the inbounds pass, I believe it was to Poole, Thibault swipes the ball away from behind. The refs call a foul. The Blazers luckily still have their challenge, which they use. And they win the challenge. It was deemed that Thibault got the ball, and but there was no clear possession, so there was a jump ball. Thibault actually wins the jump ball over Poole, and then Ayton immediately calls timeout, learning from his mistake from the Warriors game. And the Blazers set up a play. It looks like the exact same play they just ran, except for Anthony never gets a chance to get the ball because Grant takes the ball and drives to the hoop. and throws up a really bad left-handed shot that doesn't even come close to going in or having a chance to go in. And the time runs out, and the Blazers lose by 1 to the Wizards. Just
Yeah,
a
just
devastating game, man.
yeah, it was such a frustrating game. I did not like the play at the end. It was such a I didn't feel like there was enough time on the clock for that such a long developing play where assignments doesn't come from half court. And another thing that frustrated me, the biggest thing that frustrated me from this game is the timeout that Chauncey took when we had all the momentum in the world. The lose it timeout or whatever.
Yeah.
It was not necessary whatsoever. We had all the momentum. The crowd was loud. The Wizards just missed the shot, and we were on a run. And Chauncey decides to call a timeout. Made no sense to me. When he called it, I was so upset. I'm like, bro, why are we calling a timeout right now? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I get it. We're gonna lose the timeout, but when the momentum and the crowd is loud, I just don't understand the timing of that timeout whatsoever. I thought it was very dumb, and I thought it was a huge reason why we lost this game, to be honest.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like you have to use your intuition a little bit. You can't just be so stubborn and rigid that you have to call timeout every time without losing one. I mean, does it really matter if we lose the timeout there if we take the lead and we're playing well, it I don't know. I agree with you that the momentum should have been uh more important at that point. Let them call timeout. But yeah, you don't ruin your own team's run like that. That was silly. I completely agree with you there.
I hated it so much, man. That timeout absolutely was brutal. I'm like, bro, why are we calling this timeout right now? Just brutal, man. I don't even know what we need to talk about that moment. Like the team was rolling at that point,
Yeah,
and I think we could have won the
give the
game
ball
if
to
it.
Anthony and get out of the way.
Yeah, like that. That's all we needed to do. Like such a dumb timeout, and
Mm.
it frustrated me. And yeah, I think it was such a bad decision by Chauncey.
Yeah, in my opinion, so there's been games this year where um I think it was like one of the first times we played the Kings. Might have been a different game, but there was a game where like Aiton down the stretch had hit a couple of big shots, and I felt like we had the ball at the end that he should have gotten a chance to maybe hit a big shot, and it could have really catapulted his mindset and attitude the rest of the season if he's being um, you know, given a chance to make a game-winning shot like that. And I think it was tied or something. So if he missed, like, it doesn't really matter that much, and we ended up missing going to overtime anyway. And then there's been times where I feel like Grant does have the ability to get a shot off. So even if your play kind of breaks down, Grant's a good option to get a shot off. Um, there's been games where I've wanted Scoot to at least be in there at the end, just to get that experience and maybe get to take a tough shot at the end. But in this particular case, when you have a guy who scored 22 points in a quarter, I feel like you have to let him try to finish that game. And I feel like it's kind of a failure to not let him have the last shot or try to create because he can get a shot off over most players. If they double team him quick, someone's open, so you just pass quick and you should get a wide open shot at the buzzer by one of your other players in the game. But I thought in this particular game that Anthony deserved to get the last shot.
Absolutely. I don't even think Jeremy Grant should have had the ball in that situation. Should have just been in Simon's hand the whole time in that scenario. But obviously we know how it went. It
Yep.
was supposed to go to Anthony, so Chauncey says, but Grant obviously decided to take it himself and did not work out whatsoever.
All right, and then we go to play the Warriors again, and this time the Warriors look pretty good, and they end up beating us by like 20. Um, there are points where the game was a little closer than that, but they definitely that was the one time. Well, I think we played them 3 times so far this year. That was the one time that we didn't really seem to have it at the end there, and didn't really have a chance to win.
Yeah, all around, just not a great game by any means. They blow us out in the second quarter. They outscore us 34-16. Just a brutal game. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I don't think I watched this one enough to have an opinion, but yeah, absolutely brutal. Clay cooks us. Steph cooks us. No, and the Splash Brothers cook us.
Yep. And then so they go into Christmas uh having they beat the Suns, but 5 of the previous 6 games were losses. I think they're more than that if you go back further, but just in terms of the last 6 games prior to that. And you just look at that, the Warriors game, the first Warriors game, and the Jazz and Wizards game, like, is just what could have been. If you win those 3, all of a sudden you're creeping a little closer to 500, and maybe you're feeling pretty good about things after Christmas. You get some guys healthy. You get some guys like Sharp playing, or not Sharp, but Scoot starting to play a little better and really contributing. And you think maybe this team could go on a little bit of a run. But it's really tough to think that after you lose to the Wizards and the Jazz without their players. So wasn't really expecting much coming out of Christmas from this team. And what do you know? they welcome the Kings to town and just have one of their best performances of the year. And the bench in particular, Duop Reith, Jabari Walker, Scoot Henderson, all with big games. Thibault was really good in that one as well. And yeah, they end up despite allowing really good games from De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, they find a way to really play really well and just beat the Kings and never really let the Kings back in the game.
Yeah, if you would have told me that Sabonis and Fox were going to combine for 77, I didn't think we were
Yeah,
going to. We probably
no
wouldn't have won
chance,
this
right?
game. But literally, outside of those two, no one did anything. Like
No, I did
literally, no
nothing.
one was able to get anything going. But obviously, we're the complete opposite. Simons has a good game. Brogdon, and of course, Duop Reef. At home. Nas Reed, what some people like to call him. Like he's been honestly pretty solid for the most part. 25 and 9 hits, a couple threes in this one. Scoot 17 points off the bench, and Jabari Walker. All around great bench performance. And we just, obviously beat the Kings out of the gym in this one. And it was nice. It was nice to get a win, and it was nice to get a convincing win on top of that, especially against a solid Kings team like this in the Western Conference. Fun game. Very fun game. It was really cool watching us play great basketball for once.
So we win this game. I think we're 9.5 point underdogs. We lose the 2 games we're favored at home. We almost beat the Warriors once. We beat the Suns. Uh, do you have any grasp on this team, like what to expect on a nightly basis, or like next game? We play the Spurs now twice in a row, both at home. Wemby is going to be sitting for at least one of them. We also know that Sharp and Ayton are both out for at least the first game of the doubleheader or the back-to-back. So do we have any confidence that they could beat a really bad Spurs team at least one of these 2 games, or what are you thinking heading into these 2?
So my expectations as far as when I watch Blazers game, I always expect to at least be in the game. It just feels like this team is good enough to be in the game. And then obviously when you get down the stretch, that's when things could obviously go south. Of course, we've gotten blown out a couple times, don't get me wrong, but it just feels like, we've been in these games, which is great and it's awesome and it's cool to be competitive. It would be awesome if we were able to win some of these games, but it hasn't really been going that way for the most part, as we know. San Antonio, obviously not a very good team. Wemby is going to not play in both these games. He's going to sit out at least one of them. I don't know which one it is, but regardless, both at home. I would love to be able to go, sit here and say we're going to win both of these, but I can't confidently say that, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously the biggest thing for me is, Scoot and Wembanyama when they played each other back then when they were, obviously before they came into the draft. It was such a big deal. Scoot had a great game against Wemby. I would love to see if, maybe him playing against Wembanyama would ignite something from Scoot. I mean, he had a great dunk in this last game, looked super confident going to the rim. The game is really starting to slow down for Scoot, and I love to see it. Obviously, still a little inconsistent at times, but it's been more positive than good as of late, or more positive than bad, in my opinion, as of late. But I don't really know what to expect, but I expect some close games. It'd be awesome if we can run the Spurs out of the gym, but they have some good players as well. Vassell. I still have Zach Collins, maybe a revenge game for him or whatever. And then, Wemby, when he plays, can be very good as well.
Yeah, hopefully Scoot can continue his good play of late. The thing I've been most impressed with Scoot is his passing, and it's something that I thought was going to show itself more this year, but Scoot has done an incredible job of throwing passes right in the shooting pocket. And what that means is when a player catches the ball, he's like right where he likes it to go ahead and shoot. And he's thrown some passes from really tough angles and like across the court all the way to the far corner, and they've been right on the money, right in that shooting pocket. And that's really encouraging to see because if he can at least provide that playmaking, I think the finishing and the shooting and all that stuff doesn't need to necessarily show itself this year as being really good. Of course, you'd love to see him shoot the ball well and develop that shooting and seem more comfortable with the ball in his hands going to the basket. But I'm mostly concerned with him setting up his teammates and using his athleticism to get the ball to his teammates to get good shots. And if I'm seeing that, that's all I really need to be encouraged by him moving forward this year. And I think he can be a 10 assist guy eventually in the NBA with his passing skills. So it's nice to see him flash some of those over the recent stretch.
Absolutely. Scoop, 100%. Loving what I'm seeing from him as of late. I expect him to come out here and just dominate these next two games, hopefully. And, hopefully we're walking out of this Spurs stretch 2-0. That'd be awesome if we could sit here and say
It'd be a 3-game win streak.
Yeah, and then, man, we're playing the same. We keep playing the same teams. I feel like when we get the Suns, the Mavericks again after that, like this just feels like we keep playing the same guys. But hopefully we can go on a 3-game win streak. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we haven't played. So Portland has the toughest remaining schedule in the league because we haven't played Denver yet. I think there's a couple other good teams like Boston and stuff. I know we only played them twice, but we haven't played them yet either.
We haven't played Minnesota yet either, have we?
I don't think we played Minnesota either. Yeah, so that's a lot of good teams that we haven't played yet.
The Rockets we haven't played, I feel like, unless we did. I don't think we did, though.
No, I don't think we played the Rockets.
We played the Bucks one time, but obviously that's going to be Dame's return to the Moda Center. That'd be fun. We'll get some different teams coming here soon. It feels like we're playing the same teams over and over again.
Yep. All right, so we talked about the Blazers a little bit. It's time for Who's Crushing It. Who has caught your eye recently, and who do you want to bring up first on this?
I'm gonna start with from the yesterday's games. Vucevic gets ruled out. Andre Drummond goes out there and has a 2020 game, which was just absolutely amazing. So I got to start with Andre Drummond. Obviously, that's not like a long-term thing, but just out of nowhere, the man has a 2020 game in the absence of Nikola Vucevic. So that was a lot of fun and a win as well. So great game from Andre Drummond.
Yeah, during the Suns game, I was on the Suns Valley podcast. They do live watch parties and stuff. So when they play the Blazers, they usually have Torrey on and stuff. And I try to go on when I can. But they asked me a lot about like what the Suns need to do or whatever. And I mentioned Andre Drummond as like a guy that I would go and target if the Bulls are clearing house, and you probably get him for cheap. And then he goes down and has that game. I'm like, oh, that probably puts him out of the price range for you, unfortunately. But yeah, I think if I was the Bulls, I'd probably look to move a lot of those guys and get what you can for them. But who knows what the heck the Bulls will do because they're the Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls are always a confusing team. But yeah, Andre Drummond, 24, 25. What a great game from him out of nowhere. But
Yeah.
next one.
Well, since you just mentioned one good game, since we last spoke, Keegan Murray had a game where he hit 12 threes and had 47 points.
That
Gotta,
was gonna be
gotta,
my next one, actually, Keegan
yeah,
Murray.
gotta mention him as crushing it. He had a horrible game against the Blazers, but he's been playing really well outside of that. And yeah, anytime you hit 12 threes in a game, he was 12 for 13 at one point before he chucked two more and missed them. But just a huge game for him with those 47.
So yeah, Keegan Murray was gonna be my next one. But if I skip to my last one, obviously this guy is kind of a stud as it is already. But Jalen Brunson, just
Okay.
absolute. He's been amazing for the Knicks. 24 in the last game, but obviously he plays the Bucks on Christmas. Plays them before that as well. Drops 36 and 38 on both of them. Has a 50-point game against the Suns on December 15th. Just he's been cooking simply. I mean, he's been exactly what the Knicks have needed. And maybe people were questioning if last year was just like going to be a 1 year thing. Obviously, he was pretty good in Dallas before that as well, but he's obviously shown that he will be the franchise point guard for the Knicks for years to come.
I thought he wasn't a 1A.
What do you mean?
You didn't see the Becky Hammond comments that everyone was
Oh no,
up
I
in arms
didn't.
about.
What'd she say?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's not just Becky. There's a lot of people who share this opinion, but yeah, there was a big debate right before Christmas about Jalen Brunson not being can't be your number one option or whatever. And yeah, so he's gone out. Yeah, over the last 7 games, he's shooting 51% from the field, 51.4% from three, averaging over 30 points per game with 6.7 assists and 5.4 rebounds. I mean, that's just huge numbers. And he's doing his best to carry that Knicks team. And they finally beat the Bucks. They had lost, I think, 9 in a row prior to that. So they finally got a dub over them on Christmas.
Yeah, it was a fun game to start the day for sure.
Yeah. So a few more guys I have on my list. Jaylen Williams for OKC over the last 3 games, including which will be last night. 28.3 points per game over that 3 games. He's shooting 31 of 45 from the field, which is 68.9%, and 11 of 16 from three over those 3 games, which is 68.8% from three. Just turning into a stud. Anytime you can average 30 points per game on 83% true shooting percentage is just insane numbers. And of course, SGA and now Chet get a lot of attention. And I mean, Jaylen Williams should be getting a lot of attention too, but he's just been able to get some pretty good looks based on how much the defense has to focus on SGA. And he's taken full advantage of it, and the Thunder look dang tough right now.
Another one I have, although he's an obvious guy, I forgot about him. I was going to put him in here. Would be for me, Ja Morant. Since he's come back, he's been amazing for the Grizzlies. He's been the absolute fire that they needed to their wood or whatever. That was a terrible analogy, but you get what I'm trying to say. He has been great. 34 points in his first game back against the Pelicans, I believe it was. Against the Pelicans, and he's just been fun. And he also has the game winner over Herb Jones. What a just great comeback from Ja Morant, obviously. A team that desperately needed him really badly. And first game back, absolutely amazing. And he's been good ever since. Around a 4-game win streak right now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the most important part for Memphis is those 4 wins in a row, unless you wanted them to tank this season and just call it a season. But, man, they're tough with Ja, and he's not going to be shooting the three. I think he's shooting like 16% or something from threes since he's been back, but you still cannot prevent him from getting to the rim or getting into the paint, no matter how loaded your defense is to stop it. And so, yeah, I mean, the fact that they've won all 4 games since he's been back, and he's averaging 28.8, 8.5 assists, and 5.3 rebounds in those 4 games. Yeah, he's played really well since he came back.
And it was pretty much the juice that they needed really badly, of course. With how bad
Yes.
their season is gone, they needed him bad.
Yes, they still have some injury issues, especially at their center position, but that's a team that could sneak up, and that's why I wanted to, or I was disappointed that the Blazers didn't win some of those seemingly winnable games, is because I feel like we're going to watch a team like Memphis go from where we were at in the standings back into the playoff picture at some point this season. And, a little bit of me would be like, well, why couldn't that have been us? We have um, a little bit more rounded roster, I feel like, than Memphis does, and should have been in a little bit better position through the first 25 games than they did. So, yeah, it's just a little frustrating watching a team like that just explode when they get their guy back.
Yeah, definitely.
A couple other things I wanted to mention. Embiid had 51 about a week and a half ago and is averaging 40 over his last 6 games. So he's obviously the reigning MVP, but is on another level right now. When he's played, he's missed the last 2 games, unfortunately. But the 76ers are, we talked about it on Hoops Crush before, but they're going to be one of those teams that everyone should keep an eye on from now until the trade deadline, because they kind of, what they end up doing will determine a lot for the rest of this season in terms of the playoff race and stuff. Because if they go for it this year, they could be a really tough out for Boston or the Bucks or whoever it is in the East. And if they don't, and they just kind of give up another season of Embiid at this level, you got to kind of question whether that was the right move or not. So definitely an interesting situation to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not a matter of if they do, it better be when they get someone at the
Right.
deadline. They should not waste any more time than, obviously Morey really hasn't wasted time necessarily. The Sixers in general haven't. They've always been pretty aggressive for the most part, but
Mhm.
this is not the time to be complacent. Go do something at the deadline. They have the assets, they have the expiring contracts. Obviously, is going to determine, or it's going to obviously be dependent on who becomes available, but there is going to be guys available, I would imagine. Obviously, the deadline is always active. So, Philadelphia,
Right.
you're going to need someone to put you over the top. And, obviously, Milwaukee, Boston, the 7-game series, you got to try to avoid them if you get lucky to avoid them. But if you're going to have to play one of them, eventually in the second round or conference finals, most likely, you're going to need probably a little bit more firepower than they have. And they should absolutely pull the trigger on doing something.
Yeah, someone asked this morning if I thought that the 76ers have a chance, or Embiid has a chance of shaking off his playoff woes this year. And I think unless they make a big move, the only way I could see it outside of injuries to other teams is if somehow they avoided Boston and Milwaukee in the first 2 rounds. And maybe then Embiid can finally get out of the second round. But I feel like, one of those teams is going to be the 1 seed, and then the other one's probably going to be second or third. So even if Philly's second, they're still going to have to play whichever one of those 2 teams is third, probably Milwaukee, in the second round anyway. So I don't think there's any way, unless they get super lucky, to avoid that. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think they kind of owe it to Embiid to go for it this year.
Jeremy Grant's on the way. Don't worry, Philadelphia.
And then a team, the Houston Rockets that you mentioned a little bit earlier, your number one young core under 25, right?
Yep.
Well, one of those guys, Jabari Smith, is finally starting to play like the top 3 pick he was. Um, Recent games of 34 and 13, 21 and 8, and 26 and 11. His 3-point shooting on the season's up to 37.1%. He was supposed to be a really good 3-point shooter with length, and he's been a solid defender since he came in the league. But nice to see him string some good offensive games together as well.
Absolutely, Jabari. I don't even know if I honestly don't genuinely feel like I haven't watched a single Rockets game this year. Like
Oh,
genuinely,
really?
I don't think I have. Yeah, it's kind of
Well,
crazy to think about, but they're pretty good. 15 and 14, a lot better than I even anticipated.
well, all the social media is a buzz about Jaylen Green's regression this year. That's been the main thing. He is definitely not crushing it right now, but Jaylen Green, I don't know what Houston does if they realistically move him or not, but he's a guy who's just absolutely struggling. All his shooting splits and efficiency numbers and all that have plummeted this year, and he just does not look like a number 2 pick or uh, the guy he looked like even last year. So they have a bit of a problem on their hands. They're doing fine without getting much from him right now, mainly because part of their whole offseason plan was to bring in vets that could play and take time and pressure off of some of the young guys. But yeah, what do you do if you're Houston? Do you look to move him at his low point, or do you just hold on to him and hope he turns it around at some point?
Well, I'll tell you what, 2K loves Jalen Green. He progresses like crazy in that game.
Yeah.
But in real life, it's tough to say. I mean, I think you just kind of have to hold out hope that eventually he'll turn it around. But if you're looking at it and maybe he's on the last year of his rookie contract and things aren't still looking like they're going to turn around, then maybe you look to move him. And I don't know if that's in sell him, for a draft pick, or if that means throwing him in a trade for another go get a veteran type of trade, like Jalen Green to be a nice centerpiece. I feel like a young guy that might some teams maybe are still willing to take a chance on. So
Mhm.
I think Houston's in a decent position, whatever they decide to do, because they do have a lot of assets. They have the Brooklyn's picks, of course. So yeah, I mean, and then their pick this year is top 4 protected, but I don't looks like they're not going to be bad enough for it. So, I don't know. I don't know what I would do in Houston's shoes, honestly, if Jalen Green continues to struggle, because that's gonna be a tough decision for them.
Yeah, I feel like Houston's going to do like the Pelicans did this a couple years ago, although they were a little further back in the standings when they did this. But it's like some teams just they want to make the playoffs so bad, like Sacramento last year as well. They do everything they can just with that in mind, like just make the playoffs this year, make the playoffs. And I don't think that's the right approach for a young team, but I do think that I don't know if they'll trade Jalen, but I do think they'll make some sort of moves with some of their young pieces to just try and make sure they stay in that playoff race. And I don't know if that's the right move or not, but I feel like that's going to be their play coming up here in the next month and a half.
Yeah, I mean, I also remember something about Houston where that account, I forgot dropping dimes. He said something about
Uh,
Malcolm Brogdon to Houston,
uh,
and obviously he had a lot of things he got right. There were some things he got wrong, but hey, if Houston wants Malcolm Brogdon, they want to send us either like Amon Thompson or Tari Easons. Obviously, probably not gonna happen. But if they want Brogdon, because I feel like you're right. I feel like in a sense that where New Orleans went for CJ McCollum, I could see kind of a similar thing, with Houston potentially going after whoever it may be to bolster their veteran core, which they have Dylan Brooks now, Jeff Green, Fred VanVleet, so they could continue to add to their veteran core while still having some of their young core, depending on who they move in that scenario. So Houston's an interesting team. It'll be interesting to see what they do as we approach the deadline, because I could see them being pretty aggressive.
for sure. What other teams are you going to have your eye on in terms of trading and stuff coming up?
At the deadline, I mean, first team that comes to mind is, and again, it feels like they never do, but Sam Presti. Does he decide to do anything
Mm.
rash to, obviously be aggressive? Obviously, you could talk about the Raptors. Are they going to finally sell, I don't know, one of Siakam or OG? I feel like they at least got to trade Siakam. Like, I just don't think you can let Fred VanVleet and then Siakam walk back to back. I think that'd be a really bad look. They're at the 12th seed. The Hawks are apparently going to look to trade DeJounte Murray after they just extended him and gave up all that they did for him. So they're looking like they're going to reset some things. Chicago, Brooklyn, like there is going to be a lot of teams I'm curious to see. And the big one, obviously, it does Cleveland trade Donovan Mitchell, the worst kept secret in the NBA. We'll see what happens. I think Donovan Mitchell has been really professional in the sense that every time something has come out, like he just like kind of focuses on where he's at. But obviously people talk, and how true the rumors are, I'm not really sure, but we'll see what happens, man. And then Detroit, apparently from Shams, they want to go get a 4. Whether it's Siakam, Grant or OG. Man, I feel bad for whoever has to get sent to Detroit at least this season because they're not going anywhere. But
Well, Jeremy liked it there. Send him back.
yeah. If he wants to go back, I know we've been talking about Asar Thompson. It's probably not going to happen, but yeah, Detroit. She's going to be interesting as well. Washington. There's going to be so many teams I'm going to be keeping an eye on, to be honest.
So if you're OKC, is there a particular player you target if they did decide to go all in? There's one big name that everyone says would be a perfect fit for them.
I know, isn't it Lauri Markkanen that everyone's
Lauri
talking
Markkanen,
about?
yep.
Yeah, I think that would be beautiful. Lauri, I saw it, I think, on Twitter the other day, or I don't remember where I saw it, but I remember someone talking about it. So yeah, I think that's something I didn't even consider, and I think that's actually fantastic. They could plug him in at the 3, at the 4 with Chet if they wanted to. I don't know what they would, what their lineup would look like, but yeah, I love it. Lauri Markkanen, I think, could make some sense, and obviously Oklahoma City would easily have the assets to pull it off if they want to. And he's not going to be very expensive, at least for a couple seasons, as far as salary is concerned. Yeah, I'm curious to see if Oklahoma City does something, man, because they're on the top of the standings at the moment. You got the 2 stars in the West, young stars with Edwards and Shea dominating at the moment. So I can't wait to see if they do something.
Yeah, Ainge probably makes Presti overpay a little bit for him, but like you said, they have the capital to do it. They have, some contracts like Berton's contract and stuff that they can use to get it done. So yeah, man, that lineup is sick if they add Markkanen. He'd fit in so nicely there, and Chet can cover a lot of the defensive deficiencies. But they still have pretty good defenders at other positions, and then they have enough scoring, I think, to possibly contend this year if they get Markkanen. So that's a pretty scary team if they get him. So I'm kind of hoping they don't. But yeah, if I'm the Thunder, I'd definitely look into going all in for a guy like him.
It kind of reminded me when New Orleans got Nikola Mirotic, when you have AD at the 5, who obviously can play, defense, and just, we remember as Blazers fans what the Pelicans
throwing it back to 2018.
Yeah, when they got Nikola Mirotic and how good he was at spacing the floor for that team, it was absolutely absurd how many threes he was hitting against us in that series. So yeah, it kind of reminded me of that where Chet's playing the 5, Markkanen stretching the 4. Or stretching the floor at the 4, so or at the 3 if they continue to play him there as well. They could do whatever they want. But yeah, Markkanen in Oklahoma City. Once I heard that, I was like, man, that is a great idea. They should do that. Will they do it? Obviously, we'll see.
And if you like rebuilds and team specific trade ideas and things like that, make sure you check out Crushables YouTube channel, just like it sounds, Crushables. Find out why he did a rebuild of the Rockets yesterday, and he's not proud of it.
There was a dumb trade I made in this video. I actually regretted it once I did it. It made no sense.
Yeah.
I kind of went off the rails a little bit, which I tend not to do. Uh, but
And then,
this conversation has motivated me to do something with that Thunder idea. I might have to do a video on
okay.
that.
Nice. Yeah. So look forward to that in the next few days, hopefully. And then, 2 days ago, he had uh, what his perfect roster around the Melo Ball would look like. So go ahead and check that out and subscribe to his channel as well. Appreciate everyone for checking that out for our guy Brady over there.
Mhm.
Was there any other NBA topics you wanted to hit tonight, or
Yeah, one
uh,
more thing. No one should feel bad for Kevin Durant. No one. I don't know why that's being talked about. It makes no sense to me. There's a report coming out that Katie is frustrated with the Phoenix. That came from Woj, actually, saying that it was like on Christmas Day, I think, where it says
to
KD is frustrated. He wants changes on the roster already. Like, what is the Suns? What do you expect the Suns to do? Like, they're not gonna be able to do too much, obviously, because Bradley Beal's injury. But it's not like that's the Suns' fault. Like, no one should feel bad for Kevin Durant.
you know,
Like
yep.
that quote from Brandon Jennings was absolutely ridiculous. Like
To to be fair, Kevin Durant disputed that he said that, but
that's true.
or is feeling that way. But I mean, that is a guy who has taken the easy way out of a lot of other situations or tried to form super teams and all that. So would it surprise anyone if that was true? No.
Which is why I
Uh,
believed it. I was like, there's
but
no way this is happening right now.
man, it's just like I know they built it around. I mean, KD hasn't been the most healthy person the last few years. Beal's been hurt every year recently. So I know it's kind of fragile to begin with, but you can't like give up on something that hasn't even had a chance to manifest itself yet. And Beal's not like seriously hurt, so hopefully he can come back and they can play some games together. Um, it is kind of shaping out like the Brooklyn situation where they only had um, a small span of games where all three of them played together. But when you base your whole offseason on forming a big three like that, and you had to fill in depth with a bunch of minimum contracts and stuff, I don't think you can judge a team how they're doing based on not having one of those three guys in the lineup pretty much the entire season. So I still, if I'm the Suns, wouldn't do anything too rash and just like blow it up or trade them, trade Booker or trade KD or whatever. Like I still think if you get a little bit of injury luck with Beal, that you could put it together and still be a really good team this year.
So where do you like since it came from Woj, it made me feel like it was a little bit more legitimate. Where do you even think Woj got that from if it didn't come from Durant? Like I'm curious to see where
Well, I mean, it could be Durant's agent. Um, it could be other teams that want it to blow up there, leaking that information. Um, I mean, it could be that KD said something along the lines of he's frustrated but he didn't mean like he wanted out or anything or wanted people traded or whatever. He just but I mean, you have to look at some of the signings they made haven't really panned out. Um, and you have to hit on those guys if you don't have a lot of options for building out depth. So at some point, I do think, like I mentioned with Andre Drummond earlier, or I still think they need a true point guard to just absorb a little bit of minutes and take some of the load off of Booker. Um, and I think they need a legit backup center. Although Azubuike played pretty good, they finally played him in front of Eubanks tonight, and it worked out pretty well. But I still think they need a true one and a true backup center. Um, And then if they're healthy, I think they're fine on the wings, mixing and matching some of those pieces. But I would definitely say that KD's more just frustrated that they didn't really put together the most complete roster, knowing that that does put a lot of pressure on Beal and Booker to handle a lot of the offense and stuff, and then tires them out for defense. So I don't know if that was the best decision to like. Booker's been fine as a point guard, but like I said, it takes away a lot from his ability to play defense and stuff when he's expending so much energy trying to um, create offense on the other end. And then I mean, Katie's also getting old, so you don't know how much longer he's going to be at his peak either. All right.
You good,
Yes.
man? You good?
Yeah. Sorry.
All good.
So, yeah, I was really sick, like I said, over Christmas, but so I, I feel fine. It's just I can't get rid of this cough. Like it's fine most of the day, and then I just had like a couple coughing fits, and it's just horrible.
Man, coughing's
I know you were sick a few weeks ago too. But.
yeah. No cough, thankfully, but hope that gets better soon.
All right, so the HoopsJock prospect of the week. We're going to dig into some of these G League Ignite guys. So the first one we're going to talk about is Modest Bazis. He's listed as 6'10". Do you know much about Modest?
Heard of him, and I've seen some stats lines from him, and I've drafted him a couple times in the good old 2K. But outside of that, not too much information on him.
Yeah, so the G League usually or just recently had their showcase, which is where all the teams kind of get together in Vegas and have like a tournament style, and all the GMs were there, or a lot of the front office personnel. That's a lot of people talk about December 15th when some of the free agents are available to be traded as the unofficial opening of trade season. Um, but now it's become this event. It's because when you get player or these front office people in the same room talking, or in the same gym, conversations are had, just kind of like what happens with summer league. And so yeah, this could spur some trade activity. I think that's why we've heard a lot of rumors over the last few days as well. But the Ignite, they just have not been a very good team this year. And Bazelis kind of struggled in the showcase. But prior to that, they played the remix, Portland's G League team, twice in a row, and he had two really good games, including a game winner against Portland. He's listed as 6'10". He looks kind of smaller than 6'10". I don't know. It's weird. Like all these prospects this year, I feel like are like an inch or two shorter than they're listed as. But if he's a legit 6'10", I think it'll really help boost his stock into. I if he's officially 6'10", I think he'll probably go in the top 5. If he's a little smaller, he could fall a little bit. His number one trait is his scoring prowess. He can pretty much create a shot from all three levels. And his shooting percentage from three is not good. It's only 22.2% this year. But the potential for shooting is definitely there. Got a real nice looking shot. Yeah, he plays a lot like a guard at 6'10" on offense. So he can handle the ball a little bit, get to his spots, has a little turnaround jumper or a little sidestep jump shot. Looks really nice. Like I said, he isn't hitting a super high percentage of them, but you can definitely see the potential to be a 3-level scorer. And really, I think he'll definitely be able to score the ball at the next level. He needs to get stronger. Definitely, he's very skinny, will get pushed around a lot initially in the NBA. Um, and he's not as tall as Chet and Wemby and stuff, so you're not going to get the same like defensive abilities just by them being freaks of nature at 7 feet tall or whatever. So he's definitely going to have to put on some weight. I would like to see him use his frame a, a little bit better to. I think you can get better shots because he's so tall and lengthy. Um, and I'd also like to see him improve his playmaking a little bit. He's only averaging about 1.7 assists per game, so not passing a ton. I feel like he could see over the top of a lot of defenses and start passing the ball a little bit more. So yeah, defense needs to improve. He is averaging over a block and a steal per game, but it's always kind of hard to know defensive stats in the G League, how much those would translate to the NBA. And he's shooting over 60% from two and 76.9% from the free throw line. So those are usually pretty good indicators on some ability to improve his shot. So yeah, just a pretty good prospect and probably going to be a top 5 pick.
I have no slogan for Montez Buzelis. I wouldn't even pretend to know how we could make a slogan to tank for him. So my part in this will be non-existent, unfortunately. But looks like Eric is ready to end this one. I think he's confident enough to end this episode. So
Man,
that is going to do it for this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it.
we got
And what? Go ahead.
we got we got to end with a dad joke though.
Okay, what's the dad joke?
See you guys next year.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
just that's so lame.
We will. No, that was funny. I like it. We will see you guys next year. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Go Blazers.